evening, students. Namaste. In course of this online teaching, you have been given very important informations again and again by me, and I am sure you are following it very wisely and honestly. In literature, yesterday I gave you a story. The story was the snake and the mirror. Today is a poem, The Legend of the Northland. The Legend of the Northland by Phoebe Cary. Phoebe Cary was a great American poet and of the 19th century, 19th century American poet Phoebe Cary. And she has uh, presented here the importance of the value and importance of being kind, generous, and helpful to one another. This very particular poem is meant for the students who are living in this modern age. This modern age is void of what you see, the true meaning of culture and civilization, true meaning of value of education. What is the value based education? This modern age is lacking it. Students are running after science, running after maths, and they don't have any attachment, or they don't think to have or establish any attachment with literature. Literature is meant to open our inner eyes towards perfection. It opens the door of our heart, our soul, to do good, to do always kind thing, noble thing for the people who are in need. So the whole poem is meant to instill in the mind of the children the value and importance of kindness, love, generosity, and nobility. My dear students, if you don't have kindness in your heart, if you don't have generosity in your heart, if you are not noble, kind, benevolent, then think that your heart is made of stone. It is not made of flesh and blood, but it is made of stone. Because as a human being, man must have a kind heart, generous heart, benevolent heart, noble heart to share the feelings of fellow man, fellow being. This story, if you see here is an old woman, and she is very selfish and greedy. She does not like to give anything to a hungry saint. Saint means holy man. She does not like to give anything to hungry saint. She is so selfish and greedy. As a result, as a consequence, you know what happens? The hungry saint became very enraged, very angry, and cursed that woman that she would become a bird, a bird. And she also became a woodpecker bird. Why? Because she was so greedy and so selfish that she did not like to give or did not like to feed the hungry hungry person, hungry holy man. My dear, whenever you see anyone who is hungry, please try to give him any food. If you see anyone very thirsty, please try to give him any water, some water. If you see anyone has torn dresses, if you have any good dress, you can give him or her. If you notice that your classmates have no pen, no book, no copy, and he or she is just like Wanda Petronsky, poor girl, Polish poor girl, you would try to give. Actually, this poem is called class 9. I told you about class 10. Sorry, in class 10 there is a poor girl, Wanda Petronsky, but here is the poem for class 9. Yes, the old lady. Once the old lady was baking cakes, and there arrived at her cottage a holy man, Saint Peter. He was very hungry. He was very hungry, means faint with fasting, and he asked for some cake, some pieces or single piece of cake. That old woman, as she was very greedy, she was very selfish, she did not want to give anything, so she prepared a very thin layer of cake. But that thin layer of cake appeared to her very big cake. See here, as she was very greedy and selfish, internally she did not like to give anything to Saint Peter. She thought it was a great burden to feed that holy saint. But she unwillingly prepared a very thin cake. But that thin cake appeared too large to give to him. Why this appeared too large? It is here mind. The cake was actually very thin, but as the mind was, as the heart was not allowing to give that cake to Saint Peter, that's why that cake appeared very large. That's why it is sometimes said our heart should be big. If we are poor, no matter, but our heart should be big. Sometimes we say, what? Though I am poor, but my heart is big, my heart is rich. Yes, one must have his or one's heart very rich. If your heart is rich, certainly you can do everything. Simply, if you are rich, you cannot do anything. What is important? Your heart should be very rich. And that old woman's heart was not rich. She was baking cakes, she was preparing cakes, but her heart was not rich. That's why she was not able to give any single or what is a thin layer of cake to that holy man Saint Peter. My dear students, let me first read out the poem, and you will also read the poem, and I am sure you will enjoy this poem. Let me read out the poem first. Away, away in the Northland. Northland means the region of Antarctica, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Where the harness where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny furry clothes. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it is true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below, and walked about it preaching, just as he did, you know. He came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth, and being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, as he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Therefore she kneaded another and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she could not part with that. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat. See here, these lines are very important. My cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself, are yet too large to give away, so she put them on the shelf. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm. No, you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring. Repetition, see your repetition. All day in the hard dry wood. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. Now that woman changed into a bird, woodpecker bird. It was the curse of Saint Peter. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood where she lives in the trees till this very day, boarding and boarding for food. So this is the poem, my dear students, and I think it is not a very difficult poem. You can understand each and every line. I told you the gist of the poem, and I want to send the summary of the poem. You will write down in your copy, SW copy. Understand?